What's up, dudes? What's going down? Not much here, just at the, yo, what's happening, Trent? Just getting my steps in before I train the fire departments today. So I do 4 different fire departments or 4 different fire stations on Thursday. So I like to get my steps in. It helps when I go live. It helps if I'm on a live chat or something. Still going nowhere. Yeah, pretty much walking on a treadmill. So what are you guys up to today? Working? What do you guys do for work? Hey, what's going on from Brazil? How are you guys doing? Poland, oh, that's cool. I've always wanted to come and see Poland. I was pretty close when I was in Prague in 2016 and 2018, but I never got a chance to go over and actually see it. Freezing my ass off in North Florida. Well, fuck, man, come to Ohio. Like with the wind chill, I think it's like fucking 0 degrees right now. Something crazy. Oh, just finished wave 2 in the powerbuilding manual. Oh, cool. No terrorists. Yeah, we don't have too many terrorists, I don't think, in Ohio. Of course, we got Somalians over in the part of Columbus that I live in that are fucking atrocious. They are probably get the most runs for all kinds of shit. Only in the government. Yeah. Yeah, it's like 0 up here in Columbus right now. How are you liking that wave 2 on the powerbuilding manual? I wish a lot more people had that manual because it has such a good layout on training modalities. Powerbuilding 1 and 2 are really good. I think Powerbuilding 2 is the training template that I designed when I broke Tom Platz's squat record when I did 520 for 24. Slap nut. I haven't been called that since, I think, 3rd grade. We got chapter 2 on the video education series coming out on the membership site here either now or the next couple of days. It's about 45 minutes. It's pretty good. Hey, Damo, if you want to be a douche, don't do it on this page. Wife is from Ohio and went to OSU, trying to convince her to take a trip to Columbus so I can sightsee. Yeah, I mean, I would probably come in like June. June's a good time. The German volume training, squats kick my ass. Training partners' asses on Tuesday. Enjoying the manual a lot. Always fun. I learn a lot going through your manuals. Yeah, for sure. Hank from Breaking Bad. Did you guys go and watch the YouTube video that I did on John Brown telling people not to deadlift and do power cleans for any kind of training? I thought it was pretty interesting. I actually went and looked him up on some other podcasts, and the dude says some outlandish shit. Like, he was amateur bodybuilding champion on hot dogs and candy. I'm like, that doesn't tell you not to listen to him. Dude, I just walk for steps, Damo. I don't really try to push the intensity too much. If you would have came and trained with me on Tuesday and Wednesday and yesterday, you wouldn't feel like walking at all. Yeah, hot dogs and candy. I'm just like, why would you say that on an open forum and then act like you're an expert with training? Then he's talking about doing bent over rows with V-bar in the corner, like, where you take a straight bar and put it in the corner and use a V-bar with like 6 plates. So you're doing bent over rows that are extremely hard on your lower back for 6 plates, and you don't tell people not to deadlift. It's unbelievable. I just started about 10 minutes ago. So I'll try to walk close to a half an hour, 35 minutes before I have to work. Yeah, well, you better rethink that if you think you're a bodybuilder and don't need a deadlift. Ronnie Coleman had one of the best backs in the world. Dorian Yates had one of the best backs in the world. Arnold Schwarzenegger had one of the best backs in the world. And there's a prime example of why deadlifting works for bodybuilding. There's just certain exercises that are just not going to build the level of mass that most people are going to need, especially in bodybuilding, without doing compound movements. So if you want any professional advice, is don't be a fucking idiot. Yeah, Franco was a great example. Franco Columbo was almost an 800-pound deadlifter at 200 pounds body weight and was Mr. Olympia. And Franco, again, had one of the best backs ever in bodybuilding. It's just amazing to me how fucking lazy people are. Oh, it's almost 2 p.m. and you just got up? Yeah, Franco never had any injuries other than World's Strongest Man when he fucked up his knee carrying a refrigerator. But yeah, pure deadlifting, no injuries. Well, Mike Israetel, in my opinion, if you look up his powerlifting numbers, wouldn't be considering him a super expert. It's kind of tough because I think the normal person, me and Mike Israetel we talk occasionally, but he's not an amazing bodybuilder. It's the same thing with Jeff Nippert. It's like, I don't understand how people listen to these guys that really, in my opinion, have done suboptimal shit. I think Mike Israetel's best deadlift's like 500. So, Elon Musk, I don't know. That's pretty funny. Yeah, Mike Israetel, there's a lot of things I disagree with him. One, when he talks down about Louis Simmons or Westside Barbell, he never lifted there, so he has no clue what he's talking about. Two, I'm not a big fan of him telling people to not do fast eccentrics. I think it still even has its place in bodybuilding training. Lyle McDonald. No, I haven't. Name sounds familiar though. But no, I don't know if I've ever listened to him or read him. But I think everybody tries to get results without doing hard work. And in my opinion, I don't ever see Israel doing anything super fucking hard. And he's into a point age now where I don't even know if it matters if he could be a pro bodybuilder. But again, he's super interesting to listen to. He's funny as hell. Yeah, he has some off the wall fucking mentality and thought processes. Yeah, most people's backs won't take off until they start deadlifting, that's for sure. There's just something about massive compound movements that do something to your natural hormone system, you know. I think that's really what it comes down to. If you look at a lot of the old-time bodybuilders, you know, guys that had this muscle mass, that the new guys are bigger in some instances, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily as dense in certain areas. That's why I had so much respect for Ronnie, you know, deadlifting 800 for a double. His upper back and mid back and low back were just fucking crazy. Solomon Nelson on YouTube, where he picked apart Israel. McDonald does a lot of writing on strength training and bodybuilding. Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody's got a different view on how to do things for sure. I think Mike Israel is right on a handful of areas, but I think that the hard part is, you know, you get up in the couple million, you know, followers and views, you start doing this shock factor shit, you know. I really didn't have any problems with Israel until he used my video about explaining why you shouldn't do fast eccentrics. And I'm like, motherfucker, you don't even squat my bench. Like, it's crazy. Maybe his editor did that and didn't know. But, you know, I went and looked up his numbers, and it was actually kind of shameful for his size. You know, he's a pretty thick guy, and he's only maybe 5'6" if he's lucky, and his numbers are horrible. Like a 330 bench or something. Like, really? Come on, dude. Like, again, that's why I had so much respect for Coleman. He was such a massive lifter. You know, and Dorian was super strong as well. Arnold was pretty strong for his build. You know, again, like Franco Colombo was stupid strong. Built, I would say, frame size like Mike Israel, but is way stronger. And it's funny that you see all these people refute doing these big compound movements. You know, when Tom Platz arguably has the best legs ever in bodybuilding, was an amazing squatter, although his squat technique was a little different than what I like to preach for longevity. If you're really short, you know, like a Tom Platz or I'm trying to remember his name, John Hack, you know, guys like that are like 5'5", you can get away with having, I would say, non-perfect form. But you start getting up around 6 foot, 6'1", technique becomes everything. And I think people don't realize like how short and how perfectly built some of these guys are. When they make minor errors because of their leverages, it's not that big of a deal. But you start getting a lot bigger and you start seeing the leverages make a huge difference. And that's why I always look for people that tend to not be built to do something and still get, you know, very good at it, tend to be guys that I like to listen to. I mean, like Stan Efferding did not have the build to squat 900, did not have the build to bench 600, you know, did it in his 40s. And he's like 6 foot tall, you know, and those guys, like, to me, understand a little bit more about training. Yeah, you can ask me a question about Verkhoshansky. If he gets kind of too deep into it, I need you to join Patreon so I can kind of do some more research. But 455 for sets 8, that's pretty good, dude. Still don't think that's impressive, but I would figure Mike Israel, no, Mike Israel cannot pull 455 for 8. I guarantee you. Not based on the numbers I saw in his powerlifting. Go to Powerlifting Watch or whatever website, look up Mike Israel powerlifting numbers, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? They're super low. And then for some reason, and he was in the same generation I was in, for some reason I thought he was stronger than that too. But he's not. And so I think it's kind of hard to listen to somebody's I do not think Anadrol is worth the toxicity at all. No, I think that, Anadrol is one of those drugs. If you're like a Maddox or, one of these top guys where you need to squeeze out an extra 20 kilos out of your world record total, maybe you run Anadrol a couple of cycles. But for the average dude trying to bench, I don't know how strong you are, but for the average dude just trying to put on a little bit of mass is definitely not worth it. Yeah, I did actually talk to Verkhoshansky for about a year before he passed away. I never really stacked a ton, and I know people don't believe me, but my blood work was never over 1,000. It usually floated around 900, and I got that on around a cc to a cc and a half of cypionate. I tried to maintain as good of a blood work as I could when I was big. I just had to eat a lot. Chest or treadmill test, I don't know what that is. Overall step count versus cardio, do you prefer dedicated cardio? I think the step count is a good way, especially if you're a really strong lifter. I'm 45 and I've been competing since 1992, so that's like 33 years. I do, like, what you don't see is I do other cardio stuff after this that I don't really show. But I think that step count is a great way for the average person to just keep track. I read and watched something, I can't remember where it was, but they said if the average American walked 7,500 steps a day, that it would lower our health insurance and health costs by like 65%. Deficit straight legs 475 for a triple. Yeah, that's pretty good. Anavar, yeah, I've tried it, but the problem is you're not going to find the problem with Anavar is a lot of times it comes out as low-grade Winstrol or D-ball because Anavar is so expensive to make. And so what you'll find with Anavar is that it's usually not Anavar. And I do not know of very many companies that make it because of its cost. Yeah, I did talk to Verkhoshansky about circuit training, which is some of the idea that I got for a portion of the idea I got for the Wenning warm-ups. But he was not real big into circuits. He was a block periodization kind of guy. And he liked to use like massive loading schemes and like he would do like maximal strength efforts for like 3 to 5 weeks. And then he'd switch to explosive efforts and he would kind of do blocks of different specializations of training. Well, Sub-Zero, you'd have to come on Patreon top tier, man. I post all the workouts that we do. I still train pretty heavy. A lot of it's because I got younger guys at the gym that still need to be pushed. And so I like to hop in and keep it rocking. I benched 530 and my testosterone level was like 500. I benched 530 maybe 3.5 months ago. And then I squatted with an ascending set. I did 685 for one, 725 for one, and then 765 for one or something for a triple about 5 months ago. So yeah, I still train pretty hard. I wouldn't say that going heavy is the key to stay healthy. Because it depends on what your background is. I'm 45, but I'm still as strong as most like 20-year-olds because I've maintained it. I don't know if you could apply the same process to somebody that, say, just started lifting weights like 2 years ago, because I don't think they'd have the capacity to recover. It's called their CAR, that the Russians called, which is your current adaptive reserve. And that means that, it takes time to build up a resistance to being able to train heavy. Current training splits on Patreon. We still do dynamic efforts, max efforts. We still have high repetition failure sets. We do all kinds of different methodologies in order to get better. But yeah, I think training heavy is important But I think the problem is most people need to build up a tolerance to it, and they also need to have the right accessory work to be able to allow. Yeah, I don't know, the sweet spot. Well, the actual range is 200 to like 925. And I think the closest you can get to optimizing that, the better you are. But you have to keep a really close eye on your hematocrit, your hemoglobin, and your blood pressure, because some people can take, say a cc a week, like a TRT dose of testosterone, and have no adverse side effects. But then you got some people that'll take a half a cc a week, and their blood pressure is like 140 over 90. X, you got a lot of good questions, buddy, but there are a lot of questions that I think need to be on the Patreon channel, so why don't you join there and ask there. Yeah, the range from doctors I think is warranted, because I think once you tip over, say 900, you start seeing it. I know that when I would accidentally get into the 1,000 range just by taking that eighth more or whatever time in my shots when my blood draws were, it definitely showed a difference in my hematocrit, hemoglobin. It showed a difference in my blood pressure. So I think going over that is probably super unhealthy. Marty Gallagher, I know that name. I think he used to do a bunch of shit with Powerlifting USA, but I don't know on his ideas of anything. Yeah, I mean, I started training at 12 years old, and then I was already pretty fucking strong by the time I was 15, 16. Bachelor's in kinesiology. I'd like to get more to the tactical. Yeah, it's hard. Tactical area is really political. I actually just got lucky getting into the military. And then the fire department saw me in a magazine article that I was local, and they contacted me. So I think instead of worrying about chasing certs, try to worry about having a real knowledge and a real understanding of the tactical divisions of training, and then just getting your name out there. But I was working with the military for like 7 years before I got a big break where it was financially awesome. It was one of those things you kind of have to earn your way. So I think people, not that education's a bad thing, but, me getting a doctorate in July hasn't really changed my income level at all from a master's. Mostly people look at experience level. And so, although I think education is a great idea, if you put all of your eggs in one basket, you'll be heavily disappointed, because a lot of fire chiefs and generals have no idea what the NSA even is. So I'm not saying that those credentials are bad, but you can be sure that the military and the fire departments did not get a hold of me because I was affiliated with the CSCS. So I actually at a fire department right now. The guys will come and train in 5 minutes. So if you go to Train Heroic, Winning Strength Train Heroic, Tactical, you'll see all the workouts that we do with the fire departments. And that's what every fire departments do. We worked with Tony Hughes for a while. Unfortunately, he passed away. Tony, Leo Longevity. No, I don't know who that is. Which 3-day programs are you talking about, Stephen? I don't know. Oh, Leo. I'm just thinking of Dr. Evil when he says that about Leonardo DiCaprio in Austin Powers movies. Again, David, if you're asking about equipoise, come on Patreon, buddy. Top tier, and I can give you what I know on that. Yeah, ATP Labs is amazing. I've been on it for 7 years. They've been sponsoring me for the last 3. Yeah, the Patreon third tier. So if you're on Patreon third tier, come ask me that question on Patreon, and I'll tell you what days I have the guys train. Greatest strength athlete of all time. That's going to probably show my age. But you'd have to put Ed Cohen. You can't really say one guy. You have to put Ed Cohen up at the top. I mean, or at least in the top 3 or 4. The dude was so dominant. Another guy that nobody thinks about or talks about anymore is Larry Pacifico. He won 10 IPF World Championships back-to-back, untested, unbeaten. Kazmaier was so dominant in World's Strongest Man that he got banned for like 5 years. So you got to not put him out of place. Pujanowski's another one that won so many consecutive World's Strongest Men. It's kind of difficult to put him out of the range. Zydrunas Savickas is another one I think of because I'm a huge fan of longevity. I think if you haven't been a good lifter or a great lifter for at least a decade, the chances are you're doing that on genetics and you don't really know how to train. You know, that's why I love watching like Larry Wheels, but I have no respect for his training because the fucking dude's retired at powerlifting at like 26. Come on, dude. Like, to me, that's just when you first get started. Yeah, I don't know about doing winning warm-ups as a finisher. Yeah, Brian Shaw is also another one. But Brian Shaw is so genetically fucking ginormous and huge, he should stay dominant that long. So I'm not sure that what he does is, I'm not saying it's not impressive, but when you're 460 and 6'8", you're going to be dominant. Zydrunas Savickas is only like 6'2". So in some ways, I think Zydrunas Savickas is a little bit more impressive. I mean, that's just my opinion. The other guy you got to look at is Mark Felix. I mean, that dude was making podiums in the World's Strongest Man up until like his 50s. Yeah, Larry Wheels, if he'd have trained smarter and not trained for views, I think he would have been an all-time, I mean, he kind of is, but he would have been even more of an all-time great. But his longevity, for me, was just one of those asterisks where you're just like, nah, too many drugs, trains like a fucking idiot. Dude, I'm 250 pounds and 45. And I just did a massive leg training on Tuesday. So I got an idea. Why don't you, random guy, come do legs with me on a Tuesday and a Saturday, and then we'll run together on Monday. Derek Poundstone's another great one. That dude was a fucking beast. But, again, very short career. Yeah, we do assessments at the gym all the time. I don't know. I mean, I'm 45. What are my long-term goals? Kind of already achieved them. You know, one of my first worlds when I was 19, broke all the collegiate national records drug-free at 23. Turned pro in 24 and was one of the youngest guys to squat 900. I did that at 275. Squatted my first 1,000 at 26 years old. Squatted my first 1,100 at 28 or 29 years old. Broke the first world record in total at 28 years old. Squatted the all-time world record at 1,200 and 31 years old. And then broke more world records raw. I mean, so long-term goals is now just to kind of being able to stay in that range. You know, I don't need to be world class. I just like to be super strong as much as I can be. I did, you know, nothing peaked, but I did 350 for 6 all pauses on bench last night on the YouTube live if you want to go watch it. Yeah, when you built so much strength naturally, I just honestly I got to a certain point. So a lot of people don't know this or won't believe it, but 2003 was my last year drug-free. So I was almost 24. And I did an 26 or 32 squat, 572 bench, and like a 722 deadlift. And when I got on stuff, I didn't really feel stronger immediately. I just felt like I could recover better. That's why I think it's funny that people talk all the time about, you know, how you should, how you should train harder if you're drug-free because you're going to have to work harder because you're not enhanced. It's absolutely false. You know, when you're enhanced, you recover faster. So that means you can train harder. But what I find is people that are enhanced often train smarter because they've already pushed their genetic natural limits. They know the optimal minimal effective dosage. Regardless of whether you're on drugs or not, you still have an optimal amount that you can train and actually create positive gain. Anybody can go in and train hard and dig a hole. And so it didn't change my training at all. I was training exactly the same from the age, I mean, not exactly the same exercises, but the exact same layout from about 20 years old till 38, 39 years old. Some of the exercises were different, but the days were very similar. The exercise selection was similar. The volumes were similar because in my opinion, those were already maxed out. PEDs should be legal for recreational use. No, because the average person, like you got guys on here asking about equipoise and Anadrol. Can you imagine if that was totally legal? People will be keeling over with liver failure, heart attacks, and all kinds of issues 25 years before their time. And I think the problem is the average population doesn't have the education or the reservation to utilize those drugs properly. I don't even think it's a really good idea to have weed legal. I know it's going legal like nationwide, but talking with a few of my friends that actually grow the shit out in Colorado, they said it's actually hurt Colorado. It's brought a different kind of person in there, work ethic's lower, people just have a different demeanor. X, again, if you got questions on those kind of drugs, man, just come on Patreon. Yeah, good point. Yeah, to me, it's like, again, you have people asking me about Tren and all this other shit, and you're just like, dude, like, what's your baseline? Like, how strong are you already? If you haven't built a strong natural base, you got to think about steroids like this. Anabolic steroids and performance-enhancing drugs, they're not going to help as much as you think they are. Nobody is going to be a Mark McGuire or a Jose Canseco or a Barry Bonds just because they take anabolics. They already have to be insanely good naturally. And that's the hard part, is that I think people use these as a crutch. I could squat 1,200 pounds just like Matt Wenning did. If I took steroids and you're like, dude, I squatted like 850 drug-free. Like, get to that point, and then you might be right. If you can do it real smart, for 10 more years, you might go from 850 to 1,200. Yeah, legal weed's a disaster for Canada for sure. Well, athletes, Trent, I think, are already on performance-enhancing drugs. I think they just keep it under wraps now, and they have this blanket cloud over people that say, oh, yeah, we test, we do this, we do that. But in reality, I don't think so. I think the level of performance in both, as we can see in the NFL and the NBA and all these other sports and the Olympics, I don't think that that's being done solely through genetics. I think the problem is that we are seeing performance-enhancing supplementation being done, but it's just under kind of like closed doors. Quite underwhelmed by it, to be honest, yep. Because the gyno, but probably no, I didn't think you underdosed. I mean, like I was telling you, I only took 300 or 400 milligrams of testosterone a week at my peak, and I squatted 1,200 pounds. And I did that same dosage from 24 to like 37, 38. Nope, not married, no kids. Honestly, it's probably why I have so many toys and so much money. I don't have any divorces or kids I got to pay for. Not that I ever thought that I wouldn't like that life. I just never really, with my career and the way I trained so hard in my 20s and 30s, it just wasn't in the cards. It's a sacrifice, If you want to be fucking the best in the world, or you want to try to be the best in the world, what are you willing to give up, And it's funny because, yeah, my lower back and my joints are fine. They're great. My left knee gets a little pissed every once in a while, but nothing bad. Mostly just age. Elbows, shoulders are good. Hips are good. And I think a lot of that just came from just training super smart, and just backing off when my body needs the rest, not over abusing anabolics and trying to stay within that high natural window. Eating fairly clean for the last 5 or 10 years. When I weighed 315 to train in the 308s, kind of had to eat whatever I wanted. Yeah, strongman dude's pretty genetic, and if you're barely strong enough to keep up, honestly, you probably are. If you just started strongman and you don't see some pretty drastic things that you can do right out of the box, strongman, and I'm not trying to put you down, but you just may not be built for strongman. Strongman is one of those things where I got a dude that works at Reichert. He's 6'5" and 360 pounds, and he never trains and can deadlift like 700. So to me, that kind of guy would be a really good strongman. Still on the prowl, crushing weights and ass. Yeah, I know. I need to pass on the genetics for sure. No, I don't have any regrets. I think I did everything the way I wanted to do it. I think a lot of people can't say that about their own lives. I'm not again, the 6 day a week question's pretty interesting. I'd like to give you some knowledge on that on Patreon. So, all right, I got fire guys walking in. I will talk to you guys later. Hopefully see you guys on Patreon with some of these questions. Have a great day. Thanks for listening. Thanks for talking. What's up, dude?